guys, today we are going to make a tier list. As you can see, we have Super Bowl contenders, playoff contenders, outside looking in, and no playoff chances. I have them in order based on their mascot, uh, first letter, and this is the team jail, so nobody's going to be in this tier at all. I'm going to start with the Bears, and they have no playoff chances at all. I just think they didn't really have, they didn't really do anything to help Justin Fields, and it's the Bears. It's kind of illegal for them to have any playoff chances this year, because I don't think that Justin Fields is in the greatest situation, and it's not that he will be a bust, it's just that he's in Chicago, and they tend to ruin a lot of quarterbacks. But hey, if Mitchell Trubisky can do that, then yeah. Bengals, I think, are Super Bowl contenders. Uh, they are. They almost won the Super Bowl last year, and they have a very similar roster. They have a better offensive line, and they've improved their defense maybe a little bit, but that was a pretty good defense. So I think with the better offensive line, they're a better team. Then they could just go and they would have won the Super Bowl with a good offensive line. So I have high hopes for them. Bills are the odds-on favorites to win the Super Bowl, so they're obviously a Super Bowl contender. They have one of the greatest quarterbacks in Super Bowl history. And I know you're losing Brian Daboll, who kind of harnessed your potential to the Giants, but Josh Allen is still a superstar quarterback, and they still got a lot of the staff that made Josh Allen. So I think the Bills, they're obviously the odds-on favorites, so they're obviously a Super Bowl contender. Broncos, I think, are playoff contenders. But I don't think they're going to go for a Super Bowl with Russell Wilson. But Russell Wilson is an immediate upgrade over their previous quarterbacks, which have been Teddy B, Drew Lock, Brock Osweiler even, and they finally found their next. Because, they haven't had a good quarterback since Peyton Manning, and they finally get it. Russell Wilson's coming up off of his worst season with the Seahawks, so I think it might take him a bit to get back into shape, especially with the division getting so much better. But I have faith in the Broncos. Browns, I think, they have no playoff chances this year because Deshaun Watson is going to get suspended, and or maybe I'll put them in outside looking in. It depends on how long Deshaun Watson is suspended. Jacoby Brissett and Josh Dobbs aren't really a reliable option, but if Deshaun Watson is able to come back at the end of the year, he can maybe lead them on a run, and maybe they can have a chance of being in the playoffs. This all depends. They're on the bottom of outside looking in and no playoff chances. It just kind of depends on what happens to Deshaun Watson. Buccaneers are Super Bowl contenders every year that they have the GOAT. So, and the GOAT is coming back, so they are definitely in contention for the playoffs. That's kind of a given. And they still have their incredible roster, and they even added Russell Gage. They got a lot of their players back. They don't have Gronk, but they're still a really good team. And I think they can go far, maybe even go to the Super Bowl. Cardinals, I think, are playoff contenders, less than the Broncos, though. So, I think they're a good team, but they lost a lot of pieces, and I don't think that they're making a run. I don't think that Kyler Murray is the best quarterback, especially with all the attention that he has with the Cardinals organization. But if they can get their act together and Cliff Kingsbury can't, doesn't collapse at the end of the season, I think the Cardinals are bound to get in the playoffs. This one might be a bit of a shocker. Actually, it might not be. Chargers Super Bowl contenders. I'm debating in my mind right now whether to put them in playoffs contenders or Super Bowl contenders, but I think this is the best roster that the Chargers have had. And I know the Chargers like to choke a lot. They choke it all the time. They choke their playoff appearances. They choked it last year. Looking at you, Brandon Staley. Don't call a timeout. But this is the best roster that the Chargers have had in years. Years. This is the best roster. You have a young star quarterback in Justin Herbert. You have two of the best defensive players ever, Joey Bosa and now Khalil Mack. You have J.C. Jackson. You have Derwin James in the secondary. I mean, your run defense isn't that much better, but you do have a lot better, I guess. And I hope that they're better. And if they don't choke, then I say they're Super Bowl contenders. Chiefs are obviously Super Bowl contenders, but I will say less than the Chargers. Because the Chiefs still have Mahomes, they still have a pretty good... I'm going to say they're playoff contenders, actually. Because, I mean, the West is getting better, and they aren't getting better. So, they have more playoff potential than the Chiefs and Broncos, though. They're on the top of playoff contenders and Super Bowl contenders. I just think that their roster has fallen apart a little bit. They don't have the pieces that they used to have. They still have Mahomes, and I think he can make magic work, which is why I'm debating it. But I think Chiefs are playoff contenders, merely. Colts, I think, are playoff contenders as well. They're not Super Bowl contenders, but they do have a really good roster. They have Matt Ryan. They have Jonathan Taylor. They have Yannick Ngakoue now. They have Darius Leonard, the Maniac. They have Quentin Nelson on the offensive line. They have a lot to go for. Washington, no playoff chances for Washington, I don't think. And I know they got Terry McLaurin, and they have more than the Bears. They're on the bottom of no playoff chances after looking in. I just don't have faith in Washington right now to compete with Carson Wentz. He's tanking and he's falling apart. I just think that he choked it so hard. I just don't think that he has the revitalization power to bring Washington to the playoffs. Dallas, playoff contenders. They're not Super Bowl contenders because I'm kind of redundant on myself with the Chargers. But, I mean, the Cowboys lost a lot of their roster, and also they're the Cowboys, so I don't see them going to a Super Bowl anytime soon. Yeah, they are going to make the playoffs year in and year out, but they're not going to make the Super Bowl simply because they're the Cowboys. That's simply the reason why they just simply are the Cowboys. They don't make the Super Bowl. They don't make even conference championships. Dolphins are good playoff contenders. I think that they've been playoff contenders the 2 years with Tua, but they've had slow starts, which has really come back to haunt them. I definitely think that they can make the playoffs and try and make it to the Super Bowl. Eagles, I'd say, they've had easy schedules, but they do have a solid roster. They have Jalen Hurts. He's a young quarterback. He's going to get better. He's not really the greatest option, and he didn't do very well in the playoffs, and they do have Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. So, same with the Dolphins. Tua has the weak arm, obviously, with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. The Eagles and Dolphins are very similar in nature, so they're both playoff contenders. Falcons obviously have no playoff chances. They have Marcus Mariota. They don't really have a good wide receiver core. Drake London, Kyle Pitts are their offense, really. Their offensive line is good. Their defense is good. I just don't think that the Falcons are ready to. They're not ready to. Not ready to be. They are not ready to be on the play. 49ers are playoff contenders. And also, I'm already noticed how much of a playoff contender they are, how close they are to Super Bowl contenders. Lowest means they're almost close to outside looking in. 49ers have made the playoffs consistently, and I think they'll be able to make the playoffs this year. So, yeah. New York Giants have no playoff chances. I just don't believe in the Giants because, again, like the Cowboys, they're just simply the Giants, which is really why they are not gonna make the playoffs at all. Um, this one might surprise you, but Jaguars, I will say, these don't surprise you. Jaguars uh, have no playoff chances, but they're almost outside looking in. They're almost outside looking in, and you know, it is crazy. Jets, I'm gonna make a shocker and say they're in the outside looking in category because they had a really good defensive draft. Their defense has sauce now. Uh they have Quentin Williams, they have Quincy Williams, they have Brees Hall, they have Zach and Garrett Wilson. They have a lot of talent on their team, and I think they could make a run, you know. Same with the Lions, actually. Same with the Lions, actually. I think they're outside looking in. They have. They're obviously not. They're obviously going to be at the bottom of this once I'm done with it. But they're obviously. They have a better roster than they had. They are rebuilding. They have Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameson Williams, two young, promising wide receivers. Jared Goff, I mean, he hasn't been doing very well. Uh, so I think that he could you know do such, and I don't know uh how I feel. Green Bay Packers are obviously playoff contenders. That's kind of obvious. They have Aaron Rodgers still, and their receiver core is going to be more balanced. They have Christian Watson, and I think they're really good playoff contenders for this year as well. Panthers, I would have put them in no playoff chances, but since they got Baker, I'm going to put them in the bottom of outside looking in, ahead of the Lions and Jets, or behind the Jets, but ahead of the Lions. The Jets and Lions are a bit of a shocker. The Panthers, they have a talented roster. You know, they got Baker Mayfield, who's a decent quarterback, and I think it starts and begins with a quarterback. So, uh, I think the Panthers have a tiny chance to make the playoffs. Patriots are, I think, bottom feeder playoff contenders. I think they can make the playoffs like they did last year, but I mean, they're bottom feeders in the playoffs. You know, they're almost outside looking in, you know, because they lost a lot. I think I'm going to put them in playoff contender, though. And I'm going to put the Raiders into the playoff contenders as well. I think they got a really good roster. They got Devontae Adams. They got Chandler Jones. They got Rock Ya-Sin. They got pretty... They've got pretty okay secondary. They've got good offense. Their weakest point is their offensive line, which is now worse than the Bengals. And, yeah, that's a lot. Rams are obviously Super Bowl contenders. They won it last year. They have a really good chance to win it this year still. Even though they lost Von Miller, they still have Aaron Donald. They lost Robert Woods and got Allen Robinson. They still have Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford. They still have a lot of their all-out roster from last year. And I think it's pretty good. They're a pretty good team, and it's a lot to process. Ravens, I'm going to put at the top of playoff contenders. You know, top of playoff contenders. There's no way they get injured again. They have an incredible secondary, some good corners, and their great offensive line. They have Tyler Baumgartner from the first round. Their wide receivers are lacking, but I mean, it doesn't really matter when you have Lamar Jackson, who can do literally everything, So, yeah. Saints, I think, are going to be in playoff contention very easily, and I'll put them ahead of the Cardinals. Sorry, Cardinals. Saints are one of the most criminally underrated teams. This isn't even team bias because I'm a Saints fan. This isn't even team bias. This is just the Saints are that good. They have two really good wide receivers, and their wide receiver core was widely regarded as one of the worst last year. I think it was pretty solid. They managed to win 9 games with 4 quarterbacks. If Jameis's full potential is unlocked and he doesn't get injured, then we could make the playoffs. Seahawks obviously have no playoff hopes, and the Steelers are in the outside looking in. And the reason why is the Steelers looking in is Seahawks, I think it's self-explanatory why they have no playoff chances. It's just that explanatory. Drew Lock and Geno Smith, the quarterbacks, are not very good. They lost Bobby Wagner, and I just don't think that the Seahawks are gonna do well this year. Steelers outside looking in. Tomlin has never had a losing season, but you have Mitch Trubisky, Kenny Pickett, and Mason Rudolph fighting for the quarterback job. And it's going to just be an internal struggle with the Steelers. How is Kenny Pickett going to start? And if he does, how does he do in that starting role? How does he do in that starting role? How is he going to fit into the scheme? Texans have no playoff chances. They're the Texans, and I think it's criminally, the Texans are underrated a little bit, but you gave up Deshaun Watson. You got a lot. You did get a lot from the Deshaun trade, but you really can't win with Davis Mills, or you can't, but not with the incompetent Texans organization, that he's on, so it doesn't really make sense why you're trying to compete. Titans are playoff contenders pretty well. They obviously have Tannehill, they have Henry, they lost A.J. Brown, but they have Robert Woods and Treylon Burks, and the Vikings are at the top of outside looking in. So there's 5 Super Bowl contenders. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 teams that are going to try and make it to the playoffs. And I'm sorry, but I have to let 5 of them go. So the 5 teams that I would probably eliminate are the 5 teams that are at the bottom of this list, because these 5 make the playoffs automatically. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's 14. So I'm going to have to get rid of, well, first off, there's 3 AFC and 2 NFC. So 1, 2, 3, 4 AFC and 1, 2, 3, 4 5 NFC, right? So the teams that are going to be eliminated are, as a result of such, the Raiders, the Titans, the Eagles, the Dolphins, and the Patriots are the most likely to be eliminated. Or if you just did these 9, then you had the Titans, the Cardinals, the Eagles, the Dolphins, and the Patriots. You can eliminate whatever. Then you have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams with an outside looking in chance. The Vikings, the Browns, the Steelers, the Jets, the Panthers, and the Lions. And no playoff chances are going to be the Jags, Washington, Giants, Texans, Bears. Or the Jags, Commanders, Giants, Texans, Bears, Falcons, Seahawks. How do you like this list? And, yeah, that's gonna be it for this video. And that's how I think all of the NFL teams are going to do in the playoff picture. See ya.